Welcome to Healthy Skeptics. We're a sarcastic mom-daughter duo taking on life, wellness, and all the trends that make us roll our eyes. I'm Dr. Michele, the functional medicine practitioner who's been around long enough to spot the BS, and this is Kate, my slightly rebellious but highly skeptical co-host.
We're here to question everything because, let's be real, most things aren't as deep or as life-changing as people claim. Expect blunt conversations, a little sass, and a lot of, did they just really say that? Moments. Grab a drink, get comfy, and let's talk about the things no one else will say out loud.
The video. I have pigtails. I guess I have bubble braid pigtails because I was just feeling silly. So, man, my hair my hair was really super frizzy because I was power washing the house.
Well, why don't you put it up? Look at like an adult.
Because I look better with hair in by my face.
Do you?
Yeah, hair. Like I don't. No, it doesn't work. Sorry if you're not watching the video.
You don't think that looks okay. You think this looks better?
It's just like I just wanted some little bubble braids. I do them for your daughter all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Anywho, so today we're gonna jump into this topic of peacekeeping, and the reason why I want to talk about this, I think it's a really important distinction to be making as we're talking more about the nervous system, barriers to healing, even from a physical standpoint, like what are the health repercussions of being a peacekeeper? And this came about because I had posted this reel on Instagram and I got a bunch of DMs from a lot of women being like, oh my gosh, I've always thought of myself as a people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser. And then you posted this and I'm like, I'm not a people pleaser at all. And
I don't get the difference, honestly.
I'll explain it. But how many women in your life have you heard say that they're people pleasers?
A few.
Oh, it's everywhere. And
I know what I said earlier was that I said, yeah, like you don't have to worry about it. It's always women, never men. Men don't worry about pleasing people.
But I feel like there's so many women that'll be like, yes, I'm a people pleaser because I say yes to everything and there's a lot on my plate and it's really hard for me to say no.
Isn't it a choice? Like, why? Like, the why you say yes to everything?
Yes. So then you can go back to like therapy and find out like why you're trying to get external validation, and because that's what people pleasing is. You want to be liked and receive validation. Usually people pleasers want to be valued for what they're doing for you, right? And it obviously comes from life and life experiences and your conditions that way, but not we can't all be people pleasers. It's just like, but from a statistic standpoint.
Yeah, but isn't this just another what would I say? Like another psychology, level. Like they have to have 5,000 pages to the DSM.
No. It's not a DSM.
I know, but I'm just saying it's the same kind of thing. It's
no. Absolutely not. Because it's not. It's when we're talking about women and we're talking about barriers, like actual lifestyle things that prevent healing, when we're talking about, and from a nervous system standpoint, so from a stress perspective, if you're not able to say no, if you feel guilty, if you're trying to get external validation from people and putting a crap ton on your plate, how is that's going to directly translate to your nervous system? But if you have the space and energy to heal, your lifestyle habits, the way you live your life.
All those things are true. All I'm saying is that all of a sudden there's a new label or it's the same problem, right? What's the difference between a people pleaser whose nervous system is dysregulated because you're saying, they're always doing for others before themselves or focusing on everything else outside of what would help them be healthy?
That's okay.
And then there's peacekeeper.
But that I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you started with peacekeeper.
Well, no, then you started talking and now I'm talking, and then I was talking about people pleasers because that's what I'm hearing. So many women are self-identifying as people pleasers.
Yeah.
I do not think that we're all people pleasers.
Okay.
And this is where I was coming from this. conversation is because I think a lot of women that are identifying as people pleasers are not. They are actually peacekeepers. And there is a big difference. When it comes to barriers of healing, like when we're talking about root cause of your health issues, so whether that's bloating, digestion issues, you're having bad skin, you're having autoimmune issues, like all of these physical healing things that people are just telling you to like cut out food and make a bunch of supplements for. When we're actually looking at the root cause, we have to look at lifestyle patterns, behaviors. Okay. You have your people pleasers that are obviously living in a high stress environment, always on the go because they're always trying to receive that external validation, burning themselves out. Then you have your peacekeepers that their main goal is not to be liked. We could give a crap if people like us. Like, we're not trying to gather people in our life or receive that external validation. Our main concern is avoiding conflict.
So you're more of a internalizing human?
We avoid, we suppress, we literally will walk on eggshells. We remove ourselves from situations where there could be potential conflict or imagined conflict. Like, there are a lot of situations, for example, for me, where I perceive that it might cause some kind of like tiny bit of confrontation. And I'm like, do I want to do that, or do I just want to ignore it? Right. But what happens is when you're peacekeeping, when that's what you're doing, when you're not talking about or sharing your feelings, your desires, your wants, your needs, your opinions, anything like that, in order to avoid not even like a fight, but a potential like confrontation, which could be very healthy, by the way. A disagreement, like confrontation is not always bad, but we've built it up to do that in our brain. You're not, unlike the people pleaser that's living up here all the time, burning themselves out. You're living in a very low grade, always activated nervous system that never feels safe. A people pleaser actually probably has more opportunity to feel safe in their body. Like, you may be up here, but you also have and can find time to retreat and recharge. And that may be like the biggest boundary for you, is how to say no so that I have more me time. But when you get the me time, you actually recharge and feel better. A peacekeeper never gets that, because even if they retreat, they're still over here being like constantly thinking about the thing that they've avoided, right? Like, it never goes away. So you don't ever get that recharge, right? Because you're always in that suppression mode where you haven't shared, where you haven't put your feelings, desires, wants, opinions out into the world. And you're now giving up certain aspects of maybe even who you are in order to keep the peace. And it's a very low grade, constant, unsafe feeling in your body that typically translates to not liking your body, not liking who you are, self-esteem issues. You're constantly not feeling good about, even externally, right? So how do you feel good in your body, or have energy, or have happiness, when you're constantly suppressing your opinions, feelings, wants, needs, desires? It is very, very hard.
So, but don't you think, do you really think it's an either or? Don't you think that most women are combinations of that? They tend to be more of one than the other. But I think I don't see it as black and white. I don't see like you're either this or that. I see it as, there's a combination, and one is a stronger piece than another.
Because I would say I don't have any people pleasing tendencies. And I think you would say the same thing.
You think I would say the same thing?
You literally told me that. You're like, you're in no way, you're not a pleaser. Think about this. I was actually having a conversation with my neighbor about this. She was like, oh my gosh. She was one of the people like, I'm not a people pleaser. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's talk about this. And she goes, well, do you feel like you're like that with your friends? And she's like, do you just not share that? And I said, no, I'm not, because you want to know why? Peacekeepers, we don't have a big group of friends. We have very select individual people that we have vetted to be confidants where we can fully express ourselves. So usually, typically, and in my life, I have a handful of people that I'm very close to. I may be social and like an extrovert, but I'm not letting a lot of people into my internal circle. And so you're a friend, and I consider you a friend. I consider my friendships are held at a very high level. And if I've confided in you and I'm fully myself and all the things, like, you've made it into a very small circle. And if you betray that, like, it is like, it's,
yeah, you walk away and
oh my gosh, like so fast. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know,
so you're a peacekeeper.
Yes. And think about this. Think about my whole life.
Well,
right?
No, you are.
Jobs. So jobs I've had in the past, instead of like quitting because I just don't like it.
Actually saying I'm giving you my 2
weeks notice.
Yeah.
How many times have I done that in my life?
I think you did it
like
once.
With beyond like career jobs, right? Which is like very hard for me to walk in and like quit a job. I would just ghost.
Yeah.
And this was in my younger, teens and 20s.
Yes.
But like, I just be like, well, I don't want to be here.
Your very first job, you did that. Yeah. I mean, let's just be real. You didn't have a job to be really.
Yeah. Or like relationships. Okay, let's go through relationships.
That's not true. Oh, that is not true.
Okay.
That is not true.
For the most part.
No.
For the most part, when I was younger, I would I'd just leave. I'd physically relocate in order to avoid. Gosh, there was one guy. Okay, I was living in Costa Rica and I literally moved to the Caribbean. Now he followed and I had to deal with it without being invited. Like,
I thought you left for a different reason.
I physically left places, Hawaii, like anywhere I lived. Like I would physically like uproot my life to leave the situation. That's 100% true.
Followed and then
yes, but my point is like when there was conflict, when there was a lot of conflict in places that I lived, bye.
Yeah. But don't you think that there are people that would be combinations of this?
Sure, there's always going to be combinations, but I'm just saying I think people pleasing has become like this label we're giving women, and women are self-identifying as. I think peacekeeping is much more socially acceptable, especially as a woman, that we're not talking about it. Like it is more more socially acceptable
to shut
your mouth.
Oh my gosh.
To not have opinions. If you have opinions, you're bitch, or you're dumb, or you get attacked. If you're like a little weird, or
think outside the box,
or you're
I
not.
wouldn't call that weird.
Or if you're not traditional, if your values or what you want in life doesn't fit the mold, like those, it is more socially acceptable for you to just like, no, shut that down. Like that's not what's right. That's not the norm. And so like, that's not right. And you shouldn't be feeling those. Think about that. For real, it is much more socially acceptable. And so we don't talk about it, but what you're doing over and over and over again is denying yourself for the comfort of others. And when we do that, we live in a constant state of not being safe in our own physical body. And what that does from a physical perspective is constantly keep this low-grade fire of your nervous system activated. And then what we see is we see complete mineral depletion. We see hormones never being able to re-regulate or adapt appropriately. We see autoimmune conditions through them.
That's a big one. Yeah. Usually we say through the roof. That would be the wrong direction.
Well, it depends what the condition is. And I think about from the standpoint of like myself, and never really be like kind of always having this running mentality or avoiding or sticking my head in the sand. How that's, I hate the word manifest, but how that's manifested in its like own things
you
that
can
I've
use the
struggled
word
with.
manifest, and it doesn't mean some woo-woo. It's
No,
like it actually is a word that means
Yes.
something that has been
But
taken
think
over.
about like, so from an autoimmune perspective, like dealing with endometriosis for when I was in my 20s and really doing this heavily, you know, that's an autoimmune. And when your body's not safe and doesn't feel safe ever, of course, like it's going to start to like cause issues, especially
physical manifestation.
We hate to say like autoimmune isn't necessarily the body attacking itself, but there's low grade inflammation kind of everywhere, and a lot of the times with peacekeepers, that's what we see. A lot of like low grade shit happening everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's
low grade
true.
inflammation, low mineral status, fatigue, you know,
No, it's true.
like all of these, very physical things. And so I think it's an important distinction to make. And one of the things, so for me personally, realizing like, okay, you're not a peacekeeper, or you're not a people pleaser. No, I've never thought that I was a people pleaser. I thought I was a people pleaser, but in trying to identify like why your nervous system is activated, why you're repeating behaviors, because this is repetition of behavior for me. When things get hard, when there's conflict, avoid, run, whatever, right? Or suppress. Avoid, run, suppress, and just like don't talk about it. And when you see the behavior over and over again, and then you start to realize what the behavior is, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I ever thought that I was a people pleaser, but I started to recognize this behavior. And especially as people pleasing is out there everywhere, I was like, not everyone is this. Not everyone is this. This isn't the barrier that's keeping women from healing across the board. Right. And so in my life personally, like I still have to make a conscious effort every day to not do it. So when we're talking about, okay, so let's say you recognize that you're actually more of a peacekeeper than a people pleaser. Okay. So now we have this barrier and this repeated pattern that you're noticing. And oftentimes too, I will say another kind of characteristic of this is not something I'm proud of, by the way, but I think it's just a really important characteristic is we lie. We lie.
Well, it's
lie.
And it's avoidance. It's an avoidance. Right?
Yeah, and this isn't not like big lies. This is not, when I say we lie, this isn't like big huge lie. I'll say it this way: we white lie about stupid stuff that like doesn't matter. Like the package I put the package in the mail, or whatever it is. Oh, I'm gonna go work, when really you just want to go for a walk, but you don't want you don't want the conflict of like saying you want to go do something for you. It's like very stupid stuff. Sometimes,
but if you're in a situation where there's constant conflict, when
Yes.
you're always in a situation where there's questioning or lack of support for in any realm,
Yes.
then all you're trying to do is survive. Yep. It's just all I want to do is survive here. All
Yep.
I want to do is be able to kind of live my life. And so yes, I'm not going to be completely truthful in a way, like in a way where
because you're in survival mode.
Yeah,
you're totally, and that's kind of the thing. And this is over the past 5 years or so. It's trying to also recognize people and relationships that you have that facilitate or like add fuel to that fire, right? So I think when you're peacekeeping and when you're a conflict avoider, there can be relationships that fuel that because they don't make you feel safe. And then there can be relationships that really try to pull that out of you and try to create a lot of safety. And you have to be able to identify, and that could be a huge barrier. I can get personal, and like, this was my marriage. So I right now decided to separate. This was a very big decision in my life recently over the last 2 months, but it's a pattern of behavior and recognizing a relationship that my body could never fully feel safe in, and doing the white lies, and like, no one's perfect and whatever. But again, when you're constantly suppressing who you are, beliefs, opinions, desires, wants, all these things for the comfort of others and for the comfort of a relationship, you got to break the behaviors and the patterns.
Right.
And that was one. So from a very personal standpoint, that's something I've had to do this year. But if you're listening to, there are, and you feel like this is you, it's a lot of work, and it's not always fun work. But again, when our biggest concern with clients and people and women, I love women, I think they're great, and I want to see them well supported. And when we talk about root cause of health issues, and people are pushing supplements and products and protocols, and I'm like, we have to be looking at behaviors and patterns. We have to, and you have to do the deeper work. This is root cause.
No, it is. This is the piece,
cause.
I think, that so much functional medicine and all the health, wellness, whatever freaking title you want to put on it, this is a big, big miss. It's a big miss because it requires a relationship. We can joke right now. We have clients we work with for a year and a half, and you're like, oh, all of a sudden X is happening, and you're like, and you didn't think that was important to tell me 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's like,
because people have siloed medicine and health to like therapy and emotional issues. It's all the same. It's all behaviors, patterns. This is my background is in behaviors.
No, but I was just going to say, though, that the problem that we have right now is that, people think, yes, the root cause is, why is my body responding this way? Why is it communicating? Why is it telling me? Why are my minerals being depleted? Why are these things happening? And it's not necessarily a physical.
Sometimes it is.
It is, but I'm just saying, but it's not all about pop that pill, do this protocol, whatever. It is about really sitting down and going within yourself to figure out what is it that we're trying to solve for.
Right. And we don't, and just to be clear, if it is more of an emotional, mental thing, like, we will be straight up honest and tell you, like, here's somebody you should go see. Like, we're not trying to, we are not trained to deal with everything, but also having someone pull that out and identify it for you so then you can deal with it is really important. And so that's what I am trying to help people do. And if you're a client, you know this, because I'll pull out stuff and you'll be like, oh, that's so interesting. And it's like, okay, great. Well, how are we going to deal with that? Do you need to seek outside counsel? Right. Or is it something that we can deal with within what we're doing, so on and so forth. But again, when it comes to setting or breaking the barriers for healing, and especially with peacekeeping, you have to consciously make the effort to be uncomfortable. And I say this all the time because it's not just with peacekeepers. Like, if you are somebody that's addicted to stress, or you're a people pleaser, but
why do you point at me?
No, but if you're addicted to stress, right? Like, you're getting off on that, or there is people pleasing,
the adrenaline rush,
or the adrenaline, right? In order to counter that, you have to do the things that make you really uncomfortable. So for the person that's addicted to stress, it's like sitting and watching a movie with their family without getting up,
or doing some other activity,
or checking their phone. Is like homework.
It is homework.
Or telling them they can't go to the gym 6 times a day, or 6 times a week. That's uncomfortable. A peacekeeper, looking at a situation, I'm going to give you a perfect example. I have a situation literally that's happening right now. And again, knowing this about me and having to be more bold and more, trying to be more myself and voice these things. I have a current situation with a friend member, small group of friends, where I feel very betrayed by this particular person. Now she's reached out and I have not answered. And this is perfect because I have two choices in this situation. One, I cannot ever answer.
Right.
I can not deal with it. I can avoid. We'll probably never be friends again and whatever. I'll probably be fine with that. But like, yeah. Or I can reach out and say, hey, what you did really hurt me.
Right.
And I'm happy to like go talk about it, which makes me want to vomit.
Oh, I know.
Oh my gosh. Like the idea of actually expressing to someone that they hurt me and then having to have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
like
difficult.
that is confrontation.
But that would be
and
good
also,
growth.
yes. So I have to, now it's been a couple days.
I'm
I
so
have
proud of you. You're going to do it.
I have to put myself in the situation, but then there's the release that happens afterwards. Right. And I know that's coming because this is repetition that needs to happen over and over and over again.
It's like muscle memory, right?
It's like leaving my husband. Like that was a big thing. Like I was like, I'm just going to blow up my life. Like that is a situation where it's very uncomfortable and we're still very, it's still very uncomfortable and it's a day by day, but it's like doing these things over and over and over and over again where I'm no longer denying.
Let's just say on the podcast that this is not something that we are suggesting that you do.
What?
Like blow up your life, please.
No, it's totally situation dependent.
I know. Anyway, but it's not a solution if you're identifying as a peacekeeper.
Sometimes
I'm just saying, we're not. This is not.
This is a personal anecdote story.
Yeah. Thank you.
But from somebody who craves wanting and knowing what it's like to feel, because there are and have been periods in my life where I feel very in my body and love life and am very happy and all of these things, and it's knowing that exists and knowing that comes from sticking through being uncomfortable and voicing what I need and fulfilling those desires and actually like go, and that's hard work too, because there are things you have to do in order to get the things that you want in life.
Mm-hmm.
Blah, 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 so on. But just from a root cause healing perspective, I think it's just a really important conversation that we're having.
No, I do. And I would say that that's kind of, but it's not just about being a peacekeeper or a
people pleaser or addicted to stress
or any of these things. It's not about that. It's about,
recognize.
It's about looking into yourself to figure out what are the barriers here. Like, what are the things that I'm doing? Because I'll guarantee you, here's the thing about working with thousands of people over years. What's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what's going wrong. Whether it's a physical thing or a mental thing or situational, whatever it is, Mm-hmm. And the problem is we know, and we will push that aside, mm-hmm. and we will ignore it and not going to listen until someone that you trust can confront you with it and say, these are the changes that need to happen. Mm-hmm. This is where we need to start. And it's not going to be fun, but when you come out the other side, it's going to be so much better. I mean, so much better. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. Yeah. But this particular conversation just happens to be around these two personalities.
Yes. But like you're saying, it's not about what you are, it's about identifying your barriers mm-hmm. that are keeping essentially your nervous system in a space where you can't heal. There is a hierarchy of healing. Yeah. There is a hierarchy. Hormones are like way down here. No one wants to tell you that, but they are. Yeah. Your nervous system is first. Your stress response is first. And if you don't deal with this, nothing that you do down here is going to last or be sustainable or
it's actually why my hormones, but it's why you can go in. But they are hormones. But when you go in and for example, and you get a medication and it's like, wow, I feel great, it works in a short period of time, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, but I didn't fix all of the things upstream mm-hmm. that need to be fixed, starting with your nervous system, working your way down instead of starting at the bottom and working your way up. And that's why it only works for a short period of time. It is not sustainable. And you will end up in the same place, going back, getting more medications, doing more, increasing dosing, whatever it happens to be, because you never address what was upstream from that problem. Right. So that's what we're talking about here. And when we talk about root cause, I know that the analogy is like the roots of the tree, blah, 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 and they make the beautiful leaves and all the things. And it's like, actually, and then we think root, we think bottom. It's actually not. It's top down. It's what's going on. Like, here's the problem. What's happening all the way down, and then how do we fix that so that it's all balanced? And that's kind of where that is root cause medicine.
Yes, and to the point is that healing your nervous system and this hierarchy that we have. And I should say it's a hierarchy of hormones, really. Stress hormones, sex hormones. Yeah, at the bottom, stress hormones.
And then all the other ones in between.
But when we're dealing with the nervous system, and this is why I think this is an important conversation, there are regulation tools that are very popular right now, which can be helpful in certain situations. But again, they're not going to give you the long-term shift and transformation that you're looking for. You can use the regulation tools, and we love them for specific situations to pull you out of an incident, like an acute stressor situation. So they're not going to address the fact that if you are repeating these patterns, behaviors in your lifestyle every single day, those little regulation tools are not going to regulate your nervous system. And I think there's a disconnect. Like, breath work is not going to change the fact that you're walking on eggshells every day in your own home.
Right.
No. It might give you relief in a very specific situation. Right. You know what's really funny, though, to end the podcast? There's only one person in my life that I do not keep with.
Who's that? Me? Yeah, no kidding.
And I was thinking about this literally 3 days ago. I was thinking,
I'm hearing this whole, like, oh, I'm a peacekeeper.
But you're like,
I'm like,
but you're funny because you're agreeing with me, but then you're probably also thinking that. Which I was thinking about that because I was like, why is it I do it with every single person, not you? And we have the biggest, most blowout fights you have ever witnessed. I swear, no one has witnessed a fight between me and you. Like, this is verbal, by the way. Yeah. But like our, and I never
confront anyone else besides me.
Or fight like that with
but
anybody.
You know why?
Even like my sister. We don't fight. Like, if we're having, like, if she's coming at me, I'm like, I just want to get off the phone or whatever.
The other one, though.
And I haven't talked to my brother in 4 years because, holy cow, like, talk about conflict. Like, no, I know. And these aren't, you guys, this is not good behavior yet.
No, but what's funny is, I think, when you go back to the whole reason, the whole peacekeeper thing is safety, and that you're safe.
Yes.
Ultimately, when the blowout dies down, you're safe.
Right. But it's really funny, like, and I could dissect why I don't feel like that with my siblings, and I could probably pull that out. I don't need to do on this podcast because nobody cares. Just save it for my journal. But it is really interesting. Yeah. Like, and I kind of, like, in a, relationship, it's almost like it, I don't know. It's really interesting. Maybe I need to find someone that I can, like, really fight with. I don't know.
Well, you always have me.
Yeah. No, but I think you're right. It's a deep thing. And because it's something that I'm constantly learning how to do in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. It's not coming out healthy with you right now, but you're like an outlet. Yeah. Or have been in the past. Yeah. We haven't had one in a while. I think because I'm working on myself.
Oh, there you go. I'm getting better. Well, I've also been doing things too to, like, lower my stuff. So
anyways, it's just like a very personal podcast that maybe nobody cares about any of our shit, but here we are. Hopefully it was helpful. Yeah. I think the distinction is helpful. I know I got a lot of DMs when I posted it, like, we need to have a longer conversation about this. It's like, done.
Oh yeah.
I can talk about it all day. So yeah.
Well, thank you for joining Healthy Skeptics with Kate and Willie Nelson today.
Willie Nelson.
And yeah,
everyone comment below if my mom looks better with her hair down. I'm pretty sure it will look better flipped up like an adult human.
Look like, I don't even know what that is. That's like that. Who's the pitchfork? You know, the pitchfork couple, you know?
The pitchforks.
Americana picture.
The farm.
Yeah, that's what that. I'd rather be Willie Nelson. I kind of like it.
Oh my
God.
Okay. Well, anyways, join us next time.